Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Whitaker. I am a freelance book editor and have been for almost 13 years. And then I am also the community facilitator and founder of the Freelance Editors Club. And I also do one-on-one business coaching for freelance editors. And I host the Modern Editor podcast. Basically, I do anything that can help other freelance editors with starting their businesses, growing their businesses, uh, overcoming roadblocks, keeping up to date with current trends and current changes, which, like Linda just said, is happening very rapidly. And I am thrilled to be able to do this again with the three panelists. So, welcome.
Linda, I think you were muted for a minute. Were you calling on me or Neva?
I was, yeah. I love it how you know me so well, you can read my lips.
I know, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Brittany Dowdle. I'm also a full-time freelance editor. I've been freelance since about 2011, and I primarily work with book publishers, although I like to have a variety both of levels of editing and materials and clients. So I do take other projects on from time to time. I wrote Networking for Freelance Editors with Linda back in 2021, and we basically learned a lot together volunteering with the EFA, with the Diversity Initiative and the Welcome Program, and we felt like there was so much that we could have benefited from understanding earlier in our careers. So that's how that book came about, and that's how much of what we do now has come about as well. And yes, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to see so many people. We really enjoyed the presentation or the panel we did with the Women in Publishing Summit, and honestly, just sitting, I could just sit and listen to and talk with these three other wonderful editors and entrepreneurs for hours. So I think you're just like getting a side benefit of us wanting to hear what all the other good ideas that each of us has. But thank you for being here.
Wonderful. It's good to have you, Brittany. Neva, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. My name is Neva Talladen, and I am a developmental editor from the Rockaways in New York. I'm also a co-host of the Talking Writing podcast and a writing mentor for Literary Craft Society, which is helmed by Juliet Diaz. I work primarily with nonfiction, especially when I work with traditional and indie publishers. But for individual authors and book coaches, it's a mix of genres. I also specialize in like helping coaches assemble and edit their anthologies and book projects. And I'm happy to share whatever I can share to help others also find their own place in this, very diverse editing world.
Wonderful. Welcome, Neva. And did you mention that you're still in the Philippines or you're back here?
I'm back. I'm back in New York. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, good to know.
Yeah, I know, back in the cold.
Yes, we know what that means. Well, welcome. It's good to see everyone. My name is Linda Ruggieri. I'm a nonfiction editor. I'm based out of Northern California. I help facilitate the activities that we do at the networking studio. And one of the things that we really, and I see a lot of networking studio member faces here, so thank you for coming. But one of the things that we really look for is building community, creating connections, opening possibilities and opportunities for each other, and bringing another and a different sense of meaning to the editing work that we do, because editing can be a very solitary thing, and building in community and working in community makes such a difference for in our personal lives and our professional lives as well. So I'm going to start with this little story that I tell when we talked about this, that really had an impact on me. And I can't remember exactly who it was. It was from the guy from the DOAC podcast or not, but he said that he had a career in finance. He was doing really well. He had been taken under the wing of the CEO, I think, because he would be like the next CEO for another international office. and he was working his butt off, and he's doing really, really well. And he was becoming successful, and his career was just advancing in corporate America at a pace that was like unprecedented. So by 28, they invited him to start shadowing the CEO around the country, and he thought, this is it. So he started doing that, and he realized that the CEO would like work weekends and just was never back with his family and didn't get a chance to like rest. And so he asked him, so what's the secret? Like, when do you take off? When do you? And he's like, well, no, because you're the CEO. Like, this is what I want. He's like, this is what I've always wanted to do, and this is how I got to the top. And he said that he realized that he was really good at climbing the mountain, and he climbed the mountain really fast. But when he got to the top of the mountain, he realized he had climbed the wrong mountain. And that really resonated for me as an editor when I started off in freelancing, because I knew what I thought I knew what I wanted to do. And I was doing a lot of things to try to get there. But then at some point there was a shift and a questioning is, am I doing the right thing for me? Am I building my business in the direction that I want it to go, or am I building it in the direction that everybody else is doing it, because that's what seems to be the norm and the traditional path? And being able to question that and have that kind of conversation with myself was really eye-opening, because I realized, no, that's not what I want to do. I also want to do this and this and this. And it's okay to let go of some things. And what would happen to me is that I'd be on Instagram or on, social media, and I'd be seeing like, oh my God, look at what Tara's doing. Like, that's amazing. And then I'd be like talking to Brittany, and we'd have all these ideas, like we could do this, we could do that, we could fill this gap that we don't see, and then I would see, Tara introduce us to Neva, because Neva had also identified an opportunity. So the purpose of the panel today is for you to meet 4 different editors. We all edit in different genres, but besides editing, we do something else that brings us joy and that grows our business and that is related to editing. So one of my first questions is going to be, let's start with Tara. So how did you discover the idea of having a freelancer club? Because that's a big leap to take in the freelancing world. And as an editor, being that it's such a kind of a small community around the world.
It was a very big leap, and one that I spent a very long time debating on, because at the core of me, I am an introvert. And so a lot of peopling exhausts me. And I thought, do I really want to create a community where I have to people all the time? Fast forward to now, we're in our 5th year, and I'm very happy to say that I'm glad I did it. It took a little bit of figuring out what worked for me and what worked for the club, that balance, because even though I adore every single FEC member, they are still people, and I still need to recharge and make sure that I'm honoring how I feel, as well as still serving everyone in the community. So it all stemmed, I'll just tell the brief story. I had a very icky experience with a Facebook group when I first started editing 12 to 13 years ago. And it really stuck with me all through my career. And I always wanted that community that felt like I could ask a question and not be looked down on, or, told I shouldn't be an editor, or how dare you ask this question, you should know this. And it was always just there. And then we all know what happened in 2020. And I kind of had a talk with myself about, what are you doing? Are you playing it scared? Are you going to try this? If you don't try it, you're never going to know. So I did. It was basically kind of just got sick of myself in a way, and sick of the indecision. And that led to the club. And then the club led to coaching, and the coaching led to the podcast, and all of those led to the editing contract template. Like, it's just continuing to listen to the community to see what they're looking for, what they need help with, how I can sort of ease any of those roadblocks isn't the best word, I don't like it, but any of those hurdles that we all come across as an editor, whether we're just starting out or whether we've been in business for many years, there's always something to figure out, to learn, to navigate. And I just really wanted that space for editors to be able to come to be able to get that help and ask for that feedback, and to get the support, and to be able to get cheerleading, essentially, and in a place where we can all just talk about what it's like to be an editor, the good, the bad, the ugly, and know that it's a safe space to do so. So that's kind of how I evolved from book editing. I'm still a book editor. I forgot to mention that. I edit romance and mystery, thriller, suspense. and I still very much am a book editor, but then I also have all of these other things that really have filled my cup in many, many ways. And I can't imagine not having the club now. So I'm glad I made that leap, terrifying as it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that fear, like all of these business endeavors don't come without fear and without hesitation, without imposter syndrome, and without all of those negative voices. But as you'll see today in the call, is that everybody has found a way to manage it. I don't want to say overcome it because I don't know that we ever do overcome it, but damn, do we try. So for sure. Neva, I have a question for you because you've really identified something to help small literary agencies. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how you came about like to seeing that opportunity there for you and then taking it on?
Oh, you mean the book coaches
The author
working with.
support, the author care.
Right, right. Well, when I started editing, one of my concerns is that there are so many, really great editors, and how do you make yourself stand out? And then one of the things that, partly thanks to also to Tara and Freelance Editors Club is that, finding your, leaning on your own previous experience to kind of take that into your editing career. So previously, I have experience as a startup entrepreneur. Don't ask me about that. I don't want to be. I don't want to be in that world anymore. But what I took from that experience is like I found out I had a talent for strategy and project management, right? And so sometimes like publishers come to me and then they're like, "Oh, could you dev edit this?" But also this author kind of needs, special handholding in terms of accountability, blah blah blah. And so I discovered that the one thing that publishers and, other agencies don't have is really the bandwidth to kind of give that particular attention, to individual authors. And so, aside from outsourcing dev editing, they found that the extra care I give for author care, for helping the author manage their books like a project, because it is a project, helping the organize them was really like an add-on, and made their authors happy. And so I started offering both project management and along with my dev editing services, and sometimes even along with my copy editing services. And that kind of like set me apart from, other candidates. So granted, not everyone will need that, that they have, sometimes they're more hands-on, but the ones I worked with regularly, they really value that contribution, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that and I love that. I love that because that's like such a small little wedge that you fit yourself into with that. So, and if you think about the amount of indie publishing houses and the amount of regular publishing houses, the amount of author publishers, there's so much work out there in that area. So, excellent. Brittany, one of the things that has always helped guide me with my work when I work with you on projects is intuition. And intuition plays a really big role in the projects that you choose and the opportunities and the volunteer work. Can you tie that into a little bit, maybe how intuition plays a role in identifying those opportunities that might be right for you or not right for you?
Sure. Yeah, I think that, there are a couple of different parts of intuition, and I find that I'm learning more. Like I consider myself like a continuous learner. I'm always learning, and I know Linda, you're that way, and I'm sure that Tara and Neva are too, and many of us here, because that's kind of, I think that's part of being an editor, is that you have that curiosity and that kind of hunger for knowledge and new perspectives. So I don't ever feel like I'm like at that place where I know everything. I usually feel like there's so much more I need to know. And that's true with learning kind of about intuition and how it works. But I would say that for me, like Tara, I'm an introvert. And so when I was first starting out in my editing career, I would say, the first 5 years or so, I really didn't have a very robust network because I was just, I had some of the same experiences she did and some of the big groups and things like that. And so when you're already in a field or a position where you don't have a lot of day-to-day interactions with colleagues, it just kind of compounds. And so I would say that listening to my intuition, obviously I knew I needed to be connecting with more people. Maybe at that time, I would say I didn't really understand the full picture of how it could help me, but I knew I needed to be doing it. So I started looking for opportunities that were doable for me, that aligned with places that I had interest, with niches and things. And so in doing that, that kind of just making these small little choices of like, what can I do today? Like, is this something that aligns not just with where I think I should be going or people tell me I should go, but really with like my interests? Like, what is kind of making sense for me, and is it a should or a want to do, right? And so listening to a bit more of the wants, even though a lot of times maybe we feel like we shouldn't do that, I think if you do, that's a really good way to kind of start listening to your intuition. And not to get into a big deep conversation about what intuition is, but I will say that for many of us, you're taking in information all of the time and you're processing it on kind of a subconscious level. And so sometimes, we feel that that needs to be made overt, but quite often you've got a really large reserve of information and kind of subsurface processing going on. And if you can just trust yourself to listen to that, I think that's kind of what I've done. And in doing that, that led me to, volunteering with the EFA in particular, to helping get the diversity initiative started, to helping to develop the Welcome program. And so when I think back on the progress that I've made in my career over about the last 10 years, it's really from just incrementally trusting that intuition, trusting myself, and even when it's not completely comfortable, allowing myself to like take the risk. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, it was still a learning experience. It's not the end of the world. But I would say that doing that, that's how I got to really build the network that I have now. All these great colleagues that I have such a good relationship with. Linda, the work that you and I have done together with our book, with the networking studio and various other things, and just yeah, so I don't know if that was clear. I tend to be kind of I think in sort of webs and things like that. So, but for me, allowing yourself to kind of to follow those things and not putting too much pressure is a good start to listening to intuition and allowing it to guide you to some of these gaps where there are needs and you could fill them if you don't talk yourself out of it.
Yeah, I second what all of you have said. And I think the way it works for me, because I feel my brain is always like and Brittany knows this, nonstop, always coming up with things, is because I don't find things that I need. And I get really aggravated. Like, why isn't there a template for this? Why could I just copy someone else's, email response to like how to say no to a client that I can't take their project on, instead of have to craft something and so I'm always looking for things that aren't around, that aren't easily available, and then create them for myself, but also think maybe there's somebody else out there that needs something like this that I can offer. So a lot of things for me, the way I kind of operate is I'm a doer. So Brittany knows that. I have a lot of fear, and at the same time, I don't care. I will overcome that fear and squash it as fast as possible and be like, what's the worst that could happen? It fails. And I tried it. And then on to the next thing. And so I don't like to sit on ideas. So if there's something out there that I'm not seeing that I need, I'll create it. And that's it. And it's a form, it's a template, it's something on Canva, it's an email, it's a book that I want to write. It's a class that I want to create. I'm trying to create things that I don't see out there right now that would have helped me and would have made my life so much easier had it been available, because I would have been willing to pay for it if it was going to get me a week ahead, a month ahead, a year ahead in my business. And this brings me to, I don't know if you've all realized, but what Brittany and what Tara and what Neva have done really, really well is that they're not trying to satisfy everybody's needs. They're trying to satisfy one particular type of customer or client need. And that client might be an editor, but that client might be a writer, it might be a publisher, it might be a production editor at a publishing house. They've identified who they can help and how they can help. And that's it. And the more I know that when you're starting off as a freelance editor, and sometimes if you've been freelance editing for a really long time and you've been kind of doing the same thing over and over, it's really hard to think outside the box and to be willing to question what you're doing, if this is the best thing for you. But it's good to question, it's healthy to question if there's a different way, if there's something new I could do, if there's a shift I could do. As long as when you're questioning that, you're also questioning, who am I trying to serve specifically? You know, it's that whole avatar thing, which I really hate that concept of think of your client as an avatar. Think of your client as a human being who needs help in something. And then what do you know that can make their lives more easier? And so I think that's what it's really about, that each one of us has identified these little opportunities of people that we know what they're, thinking about, what they're concerned about, what they need help with, and we work on that. We don't try to serve all the editors out there in the world, just a specific group. And it's the same for you. You can try to find who those people are. Maybe it's the academic writers specifically in genetics. Maybe it's, that specific niche romanticy author that doesn't have a solid editing, support that they need. What is it that you know that you can offer them? So next question is, okay, things hold us back. There's always going to be things that kind of are keeping us from moving forward. And if each of you, and Neva, maybe I'll start with you. Was there anything that was holding you back, or that to today holds you back, and how did you overcome it maybe when you were trying to grow your business?
Well, when I was starting out, I was kind of obsessing about, hey, they said this is the way to do it. This is how to, go through an editing project. Don't let any scope creep come in, guard your boundaries. And that's great advice. But the problem is I don't work that way. Much like Brittany, mentioned, the intuition thing. I'm interested in so many other things. And so sometimes maybe a client will need an extra call and that's not in the scope, right? Or maybe an extra like hand holding she needs, like, please, can I just text you on Thursday just to get accountability, whatever. And if I followed the advice, I would say, no, I have to establish boundaries that might like, it's gonna take me more time than what the hours I quoted. But I kind of went off the book and listened to, okay, yeah, I think that I wanna keep helping this author. Yes, I'll do accountability calls with them, etc. And for me, it kind of paid off not only in terms of referrals, but also in terms of how I learned about the type of clients that I want to work with, and they're not, it hasn't all been like great clients, to be honest. But then I learned how to identify right away. So that is the benefit of not letting scope creep, the fear of scope creep, limit you from working with or from doing things for your clients. That, it's always, I approach it from the point of view of like learning and giving value without, of course, without being, I don't let them walk all over me either. But, at the same time, being willing to explore. Maybe this will lead to something. So yeah.
I like that. Being willing to explore. That can
Yeah.
sound really, really scary at the beginning until you explore and then you're like, wow, that wasn't that bad. Maybe I could do more of this or more of that, or kind of customize where I want to explore. Again, we don't have to explore everything, but Tara, how about you? What held you back initially, or is there anything that holds you back now that you're working on?
Oh yeah. Probably the biggest one that I don't know if I will ever not be working on is putting my ideas into action and trusting myself to put those ideas into action. I don't have a shortage of ideas, but I'll have an idea and I'll get really excited about it and I'll put it down and then I'll let it marinate and I'll talk myself out of it. Someone else has done it better. You know, I don't have the time for this. I will come up with any excuse I can to not do it because I guess in the back of my mind it's the fear still. And then along with that, it's making sure that the ideas that I do want to continue with are in alignment with how I want my business to look now and in the future. I look back just for one example, I had this idea to have like this copy editing, I guess, course kind of. I have no desire to teach copy editing. I love copy editing. The last thing I want to do is teach someone else how to do it. There are so many other people out there who have excellent copy editing courses. Why would I want to do that? Absolutely not. So I'm glad I sat on that one, but I am always working on making sure that I am trusting myself. Like Brittany said, I have a sign up here that says it's safe to trust myself. And to give myself permission to try something, I need to get more of Linda's vibe with that, because without getting existential, like, what are we doing? Life is too short. If I don't try it, I'm never going to know. And then what? Like, nobody's paying attention. Nobody's going to make fun of me. Nobody's going to, and if they do, whatever. But making sure that what I choose to focus on is in an alignment, and then making sure that I just actually follow through and do it. That's kind of my tagline and a memoir for my life. Just do it.
Exactly. So that really, I'm going to hop in quickly because what you're saying, Tara, speaks a lot to me, and a lot of the preconceptions I had with the ideas that I have. That first of all, like, I don't need to teach a copy. That's not my wheelhouse. I love copy editing. I don't need to be teaching it. There's a lot of amazing editors teaching it. Great. What do I do want to teach? Networking, how to introduce yourself at a conference. Okay, so things that come naturally to me. Great. But what if I want to teach something and I'm not an expert at it? So then I ask for help. I reach out to the editing community and I'll be like, hey, Tara, I want to do this. What do you think? Should I be doing this or should I add this? Brittany knows that. Poor Brittany, the text messages she gets at 10 p.m. Eastern time about, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? Should I go? So you ask for help. There's a community out there. Everybody that's here today is because they want to grow their business. Ask for help, ask for ideas, get a sounding board of what do you think? So there's a lot of stuff, AI, this whole AI thing, my goodness, so overwhelmed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take Erin's class because if I'm going to learn about this, I'd rather learn from Erin and not from some YouTube video of a rando that I don't know, that's not going to be applied to editing and is not going to have the insecurities and questions that I have as an editor. So who can I reach out to? Molly McCowan, how to set your business, your editorial rates. Great. So I can ask her questions. So there is a community out there that can help you develop your ideas, that can help you kind of find your way. And that you don't need to be a complete expert at it when you start off. You can be an expert at it as you develop the product or the idea or the message or the whatever it is that you want to develop. But you don't have to be an expert at the beginning. You could become an expert along the way. Brittany, you've talked a little bit about the things that hold you back, but is there anything that you want to add, especially because, we've worked so much together and
Sure. Well, and first of all, I want to say that just everything that you all have said, Tara, Neva, Linda, like that completely, I have felt all of those things. I feel all those things quite regularly, Neva, and talking about, the clients and kind of understanding, what to do about scope creep. And like, do you just shut yourself off, or do you, are you discerning about who is going to value that extra effort, right? Or that extra, who really needs it. And I've had those same kinds of experiences. And Tara talking about like, just go ahead, trust yourself and do the thing. I think that, for me, and I know that everyone here, we're all at different points in our career. but for me, one of the things that I would say really held me back early on was just feeling this sense of kind of the weight of this invisible, like, well, this is what we do, or this is what we do not do, or you're, not even the imposter syndrome, but the weight of, you know, no, you can't even do anything different until you get to a certain point in your career. Like, you're not worthy. Like, who are you to do anything different? And that, like, I still have that, and I still feel it weighs on me. But I would say to those who are early in your career, like, take it from us who are later, and don't listen to it, because everyone here has something unique, special, some ability to reach a certain set of clients and to provide a very niche and needed service. And if you spend too much time listening to these things saying you need to just be the little square in the square peg, and then later you can differentiate, I would say don't listen to that. You've got it now. Yes, you're going to learn and get better as time goes on. That's just the nature of life. So you're not going to be perfect now. None of us are, and there's no such thing as perfect, so it doesn't matter. So I think for me is like working through a lot of this and being able to, as Tara said, trust myself, stand up for my own ideas the way that I, trust what I can give. So there's more I could talk about, but I think that's kind of in a little concise package what I think of as really having held me back through a lot of my career. And then but my community, people like Linda and other wonderful people that I know, have helped me to have that, to step out and to do the things and know that I could contribute and help other people in a way that I wasn't even allowing myself to. So that's another thing that networking and community can give you. If you don't have it for yourself, your friends and your colleagues can help you. So.
Yeah, I'm reading some of the comments. So I asked in the chat, what is holding you back from trying a new service or a new opportunity? And I'm reading some of the messages. And I like, Dawn, what you're saying, there's other people offering that. Nobody would pay for this. I was just reading the case study of Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. And that when Starbucks started, Dunkin' Donuts was already serving coffee and pastries or donuts. And how they decided to make an internal commitment to serve a different kind of customer. And here we are today, how many years later, and we're all drinking coffee. We're all drinking the kind of coffee that we love drinking, and we're all buying it from different places. And we're buying it from the place that we want to buy. So there's room, in the editing world, it's a small world, but it's also a big world, and there's room for everyone. It's just, again, a matter of identifying who you're trying to serve, what problem you're trying to help them solve. And then are you putting yourself, a lot of times I wonder, am I putting myself in the places where those people are? Or am I staying in the safety net of my, in-home office and doing everything virtually and not really connecting? And what I have found in my experience as an editor, and I hope this serves like a little pep talk for each of you, is that fear holds me back from trying out the things. And my therapist told me this years ago. She was like, you have a fear of success, which I thought was such a corny thing to say, because like, oh, she has a fear of success. But it was true, because then what if I do reach out and I do ask or tell someone that I want to do this? What if they say yes? And then what if it turns out being good? And this happened to me with my editing work when I wanted to work for Patagonia. And Brittany knows that I held off forever to talk to the head of publishing, even though I kept crossing paths with her all the time, until finally at a conference, it was the last hour before the conference shut down, and Brittany pushed me into the hallway. She's like, there she is, go talk to her. And I talked, and I was all, but I told her I was a freelance nonfiction editor. I loved all the books they were putting out. I would have loved to be included in her, their freelancer pool for the future, for any project they might have. And she gave me her card. She's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, just, send me an email and I'll get you in touch with the right person. And I went home and I put that little business card on my desk, and I admired and praised it every day. And I never did anything with it because I didn't have the courage to email her. And I held on to that for 6 months until finally one day I was kind of upset with myself and for this fear taking over, that I was just, F it, I'm just going to email her. And I did. And then she got back to me within 2 hours. And the next day the head of publishing contacted me and gave me a project. And I thought, oh my goodness, 6 months of just letting my fear sit there and take over and not let me take that next step forward. So it happened to me this week again, where I have been living in Napa Valley for the last 4 months. I love it. We moved here for work. And there are two amazing bookstores, and they have a library system that's phenomenal. Have I gone to the bookstores to introduce myself as a local author or no, I'm too afraid. I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, how many local authors are there? They have enough already. And finally last week I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I emailed the bookstores and I emailed the library. And yesterday I got an email from all three of them that they would like to do a workshop with me with networking for writers. And I was like, so again, a lot of times what's standing in the way of our success or the opportunities is our mindset, is what we think might happen, these invisible things that we don't know about.
And Linda, I have to pop in really quickly here because we have someone in the audience who I think has a t-shirt that addresses this, and that is Tanisha, and she always tells us, don't gatekeep yourself. And
I
so
love
I
that.
need that t-shirt. But that's absolutely the don't gatekeep yourself, I think, is a good way to kind of summarize a lot of what all four of us are saying, what our experience has been. And if we would only listen to Tanisha.
Yes,
we
Tanisha,
would
can you
make more
please put the
progress.
link to that t-shirt in the chat there, because that is such a great thing. So again, a lot of times what's standing in the way of our success is ourselves. One of the questions that we wanted to ask each other, and Tara, Neva, you had brought this up yesterday, was if you could do things differently when you started off. Is that the question? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay. So
pretty much.
yeah, we could have done things differently when we started off. What would we have done differently?
Yeah, basically either if what would we have not done, or what would we have done, right? So maybe I can start things off since I was the one who brought up the question. I think, starting off, I probably, what I would not do is probably not give in to a lot of guilt, in terms of, oh, I have to earn money right away. Even though I had the luxury at that time of my life to have support so I can explore my business some more. But I was like, nope, I am going to, I need to kind of hit the ground running and be more financially stable right away. But the issue with doing that, and that's great, right? If you can figure it out right away. But the issue with that is that I compromised with a lot of things, and I ended up working with people that I would not have chosen to work with. I worked with organizations which I did not agree with my values, and so I think that if I could go back, I would have not given into that guilt or fear that kind of associates my identity with my ability to make money. And I know I'm not the only one who kind of has that kind of association. If I'm not earning, then I'm not worth anything, and you'll keep feeling that as a freelance editor, throughout your career. But if I could, give anyone advice, if you're listening to guilt, or as Linda, gave an example, if you're listening to fear, you will not make the right decisions. And if you need to talk to somebody, to kind of get clear on what is most important to you, you should do that before making decisions. Although, even if you make mistakes, that's okay too, because you will learn. But it's either you learn that way, or you learn by taking a pause, taking a step back, and letting the fear or the guilt pass. Either way you'll learn.
That's true. That's true. Tara, how about for you?
I think mine kind of goes off of what Brittany said earlier with not listening to some of the chatter out there. I know when I started editing and I was in, at the time, all I knew about was those Facebook groups, and things like the EFA were just too big and intimidating for me. But I learned very quickly, like, we don't talk about rates. We don't share leads or ways of helping each other out or competition. We kind of like kept everything close to ourselves. And so I was like, okay, this is how we do it. I think back now and I'm just like, gross. Like, I wish I would have had the confidence and the knowledge to go against that, but I didn't. I was new. I didn't know anything more than what I was exposed to. And going through, all of the things we go through as we're building businesses, I'm now completely against that to the extreme, maybe. Like, the only way we can figure things out and grow as an industry is to talk about things and not make them so off limits. Like, let's talk about rates. Let's talk about boundaries. Let's talk about sharing leads and ideas with people. Just because I have an idea doesn't mean I have to hoard it. Maybe it's like, you know what, Neva would be much better person to do this. I wonder if she's thought of this. Like, let's share things. Let's be a community instead of being all individuals against each other. And I think we've made big strides with that, but we still have a lot of work to do. So it would be just being a little more open to different things when I started out, and maybe again going back, trusting that intuition a little bit, that it felt icky, it didn't feel good, I didn't feel part of a community. I certainly didn't have the confidence to think I could do anything to change it at the time as a brand new editor. And I don't know, I mean, if you do, that's amazing. I certainly did not. But just being more open to other perspectives and ways of doing things. And if they're not common, or how we do it, questioning it, like Linda said. Why is that? Why are we doing this? That's just helping the stereotypes that are out there about editors. It's not doing us any good. And how can you fix that? How can you help make that not be the case? So that's probably the biggest one, although there's probably a list of 500 things I would do differently, but I'll keep it at that one.
Yeah, all of that is, I feel like I'm in the same boat. I feel we were probably in the same boats or boats next to each other when all that was happening, because I feel if I could do things differently, this whole need for me to shut up, to not speak up, to not to feel, to be squashed down by other more vocal editors that were out there at the time, and to let that affect the way I led my my business, and the way I worked with other editors. I do think I agree with you. A lot of more things need to be talked about and need to be more out in the open, because it's the only way to build a stronger community and to support each other. So if I could go back, I knew in my gut right from the beginning what kind of books I wanted to edit. And yet I felt the need that I needed to edit everything because that's what everybody else was doing. And so if I could go back, I would only take all the memoir classes, all the developmental editing classes, all the nonfiction, prescriptive nonfiction classes, and I would have stuck to that from the beginning, because that's the work that I love to do and where my talent is at and what I'm good at. I'd also ask for help much sooner and let people know I don't know much sooner. Like, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? I would have liked to have done that probably earlier, with zero shame or embarrassment, as I do today. So those are the kind of things I think I would have done a little bit more differently. And maybe too, one of the things I would have done from a practical perspective, I would have engaged with the organization SCORE. I don't know if all of you know SCORE. I can't remember what it stands for right now, but it's a nonprofit organization that has people who advise you in your business needs. And I can see that Tara's probably looking it up, but they will have, you can sign up for their services. They're free. They guide you. They'll have a meeting with you and they'll help you in whatever area you need help. And I needed help with accounting and taxes, because those are two things I really don't like to do. And I held off forever. And finally, when I did reach out, there was someone there to help me who's become my guardian angel, and he looks after me and helps my business grow. And so he's giving back to the community, and he's been wonderful. So I would ask for that kind of professional services help if you need it, instead of trying to figuring it out for yourself if that's not where your talent lies, like me. Neva, you wanted to answer Alan's question, which was a really valid question. Can you tell us the question and share with us your thoughts?
Oh, I was thinking, like I was saying Adam.
Oh, Adam. Yeah, Adam, sure.
Adam's question, which he said that he had financial anxieties, fear of harming someone's project and damaging my reputation. And he had struggles with staying focused and motivated, fearing that I'll never pass muster or earn my place. So, let's be real. We are going to, forgive my language, fuck up at some point. And just to be transparent, like even though I work, I'm pretty confident with my skills now, but just recently I had to step back from a project, and it was with a big publisher. It was with Routledge, and I had to step back and call uncle basically because I I knew I couldn't deliver the kind of dev editing that the client needed. We had worked together for, it's a 6 month project. We had worked together for 3 months, and I realized, that even though I was very interested in the topic and we had good rapport, I just couldn't deliver on the level that the book needed. And so I had to be honest about it. And sure, I had to take a financial hit, right? But had I not listened to myself, I would have totally done worse, right? And so that is not the only project I have botched. And so we need to be realistic that it is not always going to work. That we will not always be the right editor for the job, and not be obsessed so much about being perfect or like feeling that, oh, I have to see this through, even if it's not right for you, right? So I think that being comfortable with giving it your sincere best, and then being honest with yourself. If you can't go through with it, the client will appreciate you more. It's going to be a difficult conversation. It's not going to be a good conversation, but after that, you'll survive. You're not gonna die. You will live to see another day. But that said, I think it's very important for freelance editors to have, if you can, if you are at that point in your career, you're having more and more clients, please get insurance. It's called errors and omissions insurance, and I think it's worth the monthly payment because it just gives you that extra assurance and cushion that you will be protected in cases of, in case something goes wrong and you can't finish an editing project and you can't settle it amicably. That hasn't happened to me, thankfully, but just having that insurance kind of like, can also give you a bit of confidence that you're doing your due diligence as a freelance editor. But basically, Adam, yes, that fear will be there, but also know that if you're giving it your sincere best and you're being transparent and really willing to collaborate with your client, um, chances are it's not going to be as bad as you think it will be, right? So I survived. So I hope that helps.
That's great. No, that's really good. Brittany, yeah,
I
sorry.
was just gonna say, Neva, thank you so much, because like that is the talk that I think that like 15 years ago I could have really used. And I appreciate your sharing that so candidly with everyone. Because like Adam said, oftentimes that was one of the things that held me back, was this fear of not being good enough, not being able to get that client's manuscript to perfection. And even though I said, there's no such thing as perfection, it was still a weight, and it still is a weight sometimes, of these expectations that sometimes we put on ourselves. Sometimes no one's actually putting them on us. Occasionally you'll have a client who has really unreasonable expectations, and you have to try to help them kind of get those back in line with reality. But I really think that the way you explain that is super helpful. And I also appreciate that you mentioned the errors and omissions insurance. I know that throughout my whole career, anytime that comes up, there's usually much more senior editors, like much more senior to us, people who've been doing it for like 30, 40, 50 years, who really poo-poo it and are like, have all the really kind of strident argument for why you don't need to be doing that. I have some corporate clients, and they don't ask you for it, but once I started getting these like really big corporate clients, and I don't work with them a lot, but enough that I said, you know what, I want to have that because it provides me a peace of mind, right? So like, even though somebody can make the argument that there's nothing as an editor that you can do that anybody could ever sue, because you'll hear that. I don't know if Tara, I'm sure, has read those those forum posts from years ago where people got really cranky about it. But so I would just say, yeah, there are little things that you can do that you can just help increase your comfort level with some things, and say, and if that gives you the permission to take on that next project that maybe you're terrified for some other reason, then like go for it. So, and it's not that expensive. Like, just to be transparent, like the one that I have is like $35 a month, which is not like, it's money, but I don't know, it makes me feel better.
It's almost like having an Adobe Acrobat subscription.
Exactly,
nowadays.
right? And I like them better than I like,
Yeah.
So.
So on the other side of that coin is just quickly is that, sometimes you will get approached for a project that you've never done before. And Tanisha, you just mentioned this in the chat, and that happened to me 3 years ago. One of the big 5 publishers reached out to me to do a dev edit for an audiobook. Never worked on an audiobook before. I had no idea what that meant. And I told them, like, it was a memoir, and they said, it's fine, it doesn't matter, like, we need a dev ed. I'm like, well, and then I remembered a class that I took with the CIEP, with the Chartered Institute of Editing, with Hester Hickton, which this class to me was just, it just changed my editing life. And I asked I asked myself, and then I asked the client, so what does the client want specifically? What do you want me to do with this manuscript specifically? And they just wanted me to shorten the length so that, there were enough transitions so that it wasn't going to be choppy. They wanted to make it easy for the reader to listen to. And then I looked at when I did the analysis of the text, I looked at what does the material really need? So even though here's a project that I don't advertise I'm not out there telling people this is the kind of work that I like to do, but if this publisher approached me and they felt that I had the credentials to do this kind of work, why would I not trust what they believed from me? And so the next step was, okay, can we just have a sincere conversation of what are you expecting me to do? And this is what I think I can deliver for your project. And are we on the same page? If we're on the same page, okay, let's move forward, even though this is a new thing for me. I feel enough confidence that I know how to do the work, because I can do the work for, a book format. I just never done it for an audiobook format. And it was a great project. It was such a hands-off project. So they just gave me the work. They told me, I need you to trim this by 20,000 words, add a few transitions, and that was it. So, but a part of me at the beginning was like, no, I do not offer that service. I cannot venture into this new area. And it was like, no, it was something easy. It had never occurred to me that this is something I could do. So anyways, there are a lot of questions, I'm assuming. One of the big things that I told the panelists today that I wanted you each to be able to walk away with is that I hope that you walk away with one idea of something that you've been curious about, but unsure if you wanted to try. And that tomorrow, maybe you'll sit down with yourself for 10 minutes and hash out that idea and see, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons? What's holding you back? And to help guide you, all of us have put together this little booklet. It's a little guide booklet. It's called the Opportunity Guide. And I'm going to put the link in the chat here where you can download it. And also the other thing is that, let me see if I can find the link to this survey. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, Tara has some topics that she's thinking of developing and having a group chat with. Neva does too, Brittany does too, and I do too. So we put them into a list. And I'm going to put a link. This is a little form for you to tell us if you're interested in hearing more about certain topics. Let us know so that we can maybe address that at the next panel or in another meeting. But we'd like to support you in your journey of expanding your editing business and taking in the direction that you're thinking of going, but maybe, you know, helping you iron out the things that are holding you back, and squashing that fear. So I'm going to put that link for that list here. That's a Google Doc. Any quick questions? I know we're on time, but and I do have a hard stop at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but any questions or anything that anyone would like to add or ask or complain about? No? Wow. Okay. If you do have something that you like, feel free. We have a few more minutes left where you can unmute yourselves. Tara, Neva, any final thoughts or closing thoughts for everyone?
I did want to say, you know, I know we're all focused about, yes, how can we get our business off the ground? How can we get more clients? How can my offers get noticed? Um, Instead, because I am now in this process, I feel like instead of focusing so much on social media or, oh, you know, what's the landing page for my lead, my offer, and etc. And then why isn't anyone, you know, taking advantage of my offer? It's because, you know, a lot of us are not, you know, influencers. You know, a lot of us don't have built-in big follower counts. And so one of my actionable advice, I think, is like go to your public library or get in touch with your public library or get in touch with your community, network with other editors, and see what you can do from there. I think that's a more actionable or a place where you can get opportunities more, rather than focusing so much on the virtual side, like the social media side. I've been, you know, I think Tara, Linda, Brittany, and I have tried that for like many years. And honestly, I didn't get my niche or my clients from social media. It's not from there. Maybe I met people that I collaborated with from there, but I got it from community, from real people that I could talk to, from the library, from Freelance Editors Club, from other organizations. So if there's one action item that you can do, it's like reach out to real people, reach out to real community rather than focusing so much on offers and social media. You can't offer to the void. You know what I mean? Build your community. So yeah, that's it.
One person at a time. One person at a time. Tara, any closing thoughts?
I mean, mic drop for what Neva just said and completely co-sign. I will say real quick, and I just thought of this, Linda, so it's not in the Google Doc you just shared, but so much of what we talked about today dealt with thoughts and emotions that we have about everything. And I focus on this in the club, but I would really like to offer it to as many people as possible. I learned of a process with my coach, who is a cognitive behavioral therapist, on processing your thoughts and emotions so that you can actually take different action and get different results down the road. Because we always want to just change the action, and we don't want to do the uncomfortable, sometimes icky work of processing thoughts and emotions. Or if you're like me, I never learned how when I was a child, which that's a whole another story. So if you're interested in learning more about that, it's called the Terra process. I would love to have some sort of workshop or webinar or whatever we want to call it, to go through that. And then kind of what Neva said, and Linda had mentioned this too, in a world that is very focused on eliminating humanity and focusing on AI, I cannot stress enough to just remember that we are all people and humans, and to have more of a people-focused business is what's going to make us stand out in the coming years. I'm poking more at generative AI and the things that are trying to get creativity out of it for whatever reason. Like, can we make AI do something like my laundry or something I don't want to do? Like, don't take my writing or my drawing or my creativity away. Take something else. But so I'm really focusing on that with editors that I talk to, and how we make that happen, how we differentiate ourselves from robots. And people that want to just use spell check or Grammarly, which those people are always going to exist. They've existed since I started editing, but with AI being so prevalent and talked about, it's something that I want to focus more on in the future. So community, like Neva said, and remembering that the human side of our business with thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. I dare you all to find an AI chat you could have like this one today out there. Everyone, thank you so much for making time out of your day today to be with us. You know, these are an amazing panelists. Make sure you follow them on social media. Make sure you subscribe to their newsletters. That's how most of us are able to get the work out that we do. Make sure you complete that survey, that sign up sheet for other topics that you might be interested in. And Tara, Neva, and Brittany, I know you are very, very busy with your work and the things that you guys are doing. So thank you for making time to be with us today here at the Networking Studio. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay motivated, and go conquer that thing you've been meaning to do and haven't done yet. So thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.